just going to cover off on what's new in the 8.45 release when it comes out in the next few days. Really quickly, the first one, there's a toggle button now on the server to mute button sounds. One of the requests I got was, can we make it so the sounds come through from the tablet or phone button presses through the server side for those that are having their headphones on so they can hear. So that's now a thing. By default it's on. You can mute them on the server side here. It will seem like there's a little bit of a delay from when you push the button on the tablet or phone to when you hear the sound, because the server fires the command on finger releasing the button on your tablet, and the tablet fires the sound on pressing. So if it seems like there's a bit of a delay, that's the reason why that is. The next thing is, now when you install VJoy for the first time, it will default to VJoy device 4 automatically for you. So if we go through a brand new installation now, by default VJoy gets installed, if you haven't got it installed already, as device 1 with 8 buttons. If you do already have VJoy set up, then it won't alter that, but if you don't have it set up already, then it will go through this process. So after it installs now and you get the VJoy installed, you get another command prompt request for authorization like this, and you hit yes, and it will go through, and you can see up this little window that will come up, and it will tell you what it's doing. It's checking to see if VJoy 1 is already configured with 8 buttons, which is the default, and then if it is, it will remove that and apply VJoy 4 with 128 buttons. It may ask you to restart if you haven't done this before, but if you've already done it before, then it should apply without restarting. Then it will come up with waiting once it's finished. And so now if I go into my configure VJoy and check, I should see now that I have, by default, it's on device 4 with 128 buttons. So that just saves a little bit of hassle for people. If you want to change it to a different device, now you can go in here. If I change it to, say, device 5, and then I go set VJoy device, it will again ask you for a permission, and then it will go through, it will add VJoy device 5, and then remove device 4, or whichever device that you had previously in that window. Alright, so that's the first thing with the changes to when VJoy is installed by default. So the next thing I did was made it so for those with the Windows client, and I'll try to extend this in the future, but now the authorization for the Windows client will last for a week. So when you first connect, you'll need your phone or tablet with the application installed to authenticate with. It will then create an authentication file which will sit in here, which is encrypted. That has just some minor system information in there, and then when you go to connect now, that authorization from that token lasts for 1 week, so you don't have to keep having your phone on every time. So the next major feature that was added is the GTC service beacons. The button for that is right down the bottom here on the main panel. If you click that and Star Citizen's not running, it'll just tell you Star Citizen's not running and it won't load, but otherwise, when you click that, it'll bring you to the next window where you can choose shard or region, or you can leave them any if you want it to apply to all. If you want to have a specific shard, you can check mine, and then in the game, if you run r_display info 4 in the console by pushing tilde, up the top right hand corner up here, you'll see that you'll have some information. It'll say shard ID, pub, etc., and then the last number 650. So if we want to pick a specific shard, then we can manually type that in here. Unfortunately, there's no way to get that automatically from the game, so that's how you do it. But you can leave it at any, and then it doesn't matter. So what we can do from here is we can create a service beacon, and then these are the options on the left here. We have refueling, where you can pick ship types, and then a fuel type that you want, or both, and then a percentage of 100. So if you put it for 10, add it to the cart, well then you want both field types for the Gladius, and you want 100%. For delivery, there's a bunch of item types you can choose. A weapon type, if you choose a weapon, for example P4AR, and I want one of those, it automatically gives you the option to add magazine. So I can add one of those, add 2 magazines, and it will add those to the cart over here. You can also add an other, add a custom description. So maybe you want an Artemex helmet, woodland, right? And we can add that to the cart. We can add a comment. Please deliver ASAP. We can add a comment to that. Then we can proceed to the checkout. You can choose to get the online providers to see who's actually online as a provider, or you can pick any available provider. You can scroll here. We've got Ultimate Energy in here. They do fuel delivery services. There's their website there if you want to find out more details. And then anyone else who's currently online as a provider. This is a bit of an alt account here that I've got online for testing purposes. So I'll select any available provider, the offer I want to give. So if I want to give 14,000 AUEC, and I can submit the beacon. It'll say service beacons created, and it will take you to the window that shows you your service beacons. You can push up the top left hand corner there to get them if it doesn't bring it up automatically. And then in this list here you can view all the service beacons that you have created that are still open and their IDs. It'll also give you the time, which should be local to your system. So this is the one we just created on May 22nd. You can go show requested item details and it will show you them in here. The back button up the top right will take you back to the previous screen. It'll also show you who it's accepted by and the status. I can then track this beacon and it will change it to tracked yes. And then if I go back to the main services, I can turn beacon tracking on, and then every 30 seconds it will see to check if anyone has updated it or not. So what I'll do now is I'll go on to another account and I'll accept the beacon. And I've accepted that on another account, and then it should pop up on this screen to say that whomever has accepted it, which would be War Farinator 53, has accepted my service beacon. From here, that person would go and they would update the beacon and send a friend request in order to attempt to join my server. When they join my server, then they can go in and update the beacon again. They can let me know that they've sent the friend request, and I'll get a notification. Doesn't matter which screen you're on. You can be on any of the flight panels, etc. You'll get the notification that someone has sent you the friend request to try and service your beacon. And that will persist on the screen for about 15 seconds. So I just went then to change it to en route. And then I know, I can start chatting with them in game that they've got a friend request and they've joined on my server, etc. And then once it's delivered, they can change it to, it'll change to delivered, and then I can go in. You can either check it in your tracked beacons if you're tracking it, or you can check it in your created beacons. In this case, I've got a lot of created beacons, but I'm only tracking one. So I'll go back to my tracked beacon and I'll update it. And now I can complete the beacon, give them a service rating, and provide a comment. That was great. Add the comment and submit the update. That will now complete the beacon and remove it from my list of active beacons that I have now that it's completed. And if I go back into the create beacon again now, I'll just quickly proceed to check if I get online providers now. And I go down to Warfarinator. You'll see that it shows you the last 3 comments. The last comment that he got was, that was great. And it tells you which jobs that they're accepting. Now from the other perspective, if I want to accept a beacon, Now that I've got no beacons left tracking, it will automatically turn that off. Let's say now I want to accept a beacon. The first thing you have to do is you can either check to see if there's any beacons available first. No beacons found, so I'll just quickly create one on my other account. I'll do a combat escort for a cargo transport. I'll put the priority as to defend, and I'll set it for 2 hours. I will create that. I won't leave any comments, I'll just put a value in there of 654, and I'll set it to any available provider, and I'll submit the beacon. So now my other account, I created a beacon for a combat escort. Right? When you go online as the provider, these on the left here is the filters that will come up as what jobs you're willing to accept. If they're either blank or all checked, that means that it's essentially all of them. So now I can see that I've created a combat escort. I can go show requested details, and it will say escort for cargo mission. The escort priority is defend him, and for 2 hours is the quantity. Now if I go to accept the beacon, it will tell me that I must go online as a provider first. So I'll go online as a provider. If you haven't been online as a provider before, it will register as a new user. If you have been, it will just tell you to please wait, and then it will tell you that you're online. And now you can accept the beacon. Then if he's tracking it, he'll get a notification to let him know that I've accepted that beacon. And it will remove it from the list of beacons that will be available for other people to accept. And now this is the other side of the fence, so the one that I went through on the other account. I can do show requested item details again to show me specifically what they want. I can track the beacon, and then I can update it to let him know, hey, I've accepted your beacon, I'm back in the main menu, and I've sent you a friend request. And then they'll get the notification that the friend request, and it's the other side of the fence essentially. I'll join the server after them accepting the friend request, and I can join on them, provided that the server's not full obviously, and then I can change it to en route delivered, or I can abandon it. And that would create the beacon back to being open again so that somebody else can accept it, and it will tell the other person that that mission has been abandoned. So the next major feature that was added was the turret blade client, which essentially allows you to fire both an alt account in a turret, fire those weapons and your main ship weapons using your single joystick trigger on your main account. So if I've got my single joystick sitting here, I can use that single trigger and it will fire both your weapons and the turret weapons. Obviously it requires you to have a second account and get them and maneuver them into the turret. But once they're in the turret, because the turrets have a fairly decent auto aim, you can set the button to be both fire weapon and target forward or target under reticle, and so when you pull the trigger it will target as well as fire. And the way to access that is on the second window of the server page. You can see here you'll have to run the server on the other account, and you need to enter the server details manually. So on your other PC running Star Citizen, you start this server just like this, and this IP address here on your other server, on your other PC, you'll put in here. So my other PC, my laptop, is .64, and so I need to put that address in here. You can leave it 49200, which is the default port, or whichever one you set it to. And the next thing we're going to do is set up the buttons. So I've only allowed for the pass-through of 2 buttons at this point. And you can hit setup, and what it will ask you to do is it will tell you to wait, and then it will ask you to pull the trigger for 3 seconds, or pull the button that you want to use for 3 seconds on the PC. So I'll pull my trigger down, I'll hold it for 3 seconds. It'll then tell me that it's done. I'll let go, and it will ask me to push the second button for 3 seconds. And so I'll push another button for 3 seconds, and then it will tell me that the setup's complete. Then I'll have to go and hit start. It will tell me to wait again. And then it will tell me it's connected. And now on my other PC, when I pull the trigger, it will be pulling a VJoy button that corresponds to that number on the other PC. You don't have to set that up, you'll just have to go into your Star Citizen HOTAS configuration inside the game and essentially double click the fire weapon group, whichever one you want. When it says waiting for input, pull your trigger on your main PC and it will bind it to the same button essentially. And then you can do that for your other button if you want, I don't know, 2 fire groups, or you want a different button for targeting, etc. There's a little bit of footage of it now that I've got it set up. So I've taken out the Harbinger, I've got an alt account running on my laptop in the turret, and I've got my main driving the Harbinger itself. Now if I pull the trigger on my main joystick, on my main account, it'll fire both my guns and the turret guns. I've also set up on the alt account that fire weapon is the same button for target nearest, or target hostile forwards, so it will target what's in front of the turret as well as shoot at the same time. Looking at the main account here, it looks like there's a delay between when you fire your guns and the turret fires, but that's just in-game lag. You can see here I've got a small clip of seeing both accounts simultaneously, and you'll see that both the main account and the old account fire at exactly the same time. One of the other changes is I've changed the way that your underlays and overlays are created to make it a bit easier. And so the way it works now is, rather than have to make a file for every single panel within Star Citizen, even if you're essentially not using them, what there is now is an underlay common file and an overlay common file. And any screen that don't have a specific one created for them, it will apply the common underlay and overlay, so that you can create a single file that applies to every screen. Unless you've specifically created a screen for it, then it will use that. Along with that, I've also created the flight panel 2 based on some requests to be its own, I suppose, niche file, in the sense that the default ship images that you see here are now part of a default underlay as well. So if you remove that underlay or change it, it will replace these images, and you don't have to try and create an image that covers over the top of it. For example, I've got this underlay here that I've created, or overlay rather, and if I go to flight 2, you'll see that I've put the Vanguard ship inside there instead of the Connie. A couple of other really quick things. I've changed some of the buttons. There's a port lock toggle now to meet up with the 3.19 changes. Engines on off. Some of the vernacular for the quantum drive got changed. And also a flight ready button here. If you notice that if you are on the FPS panel and you accidentally push flight ready before the ship's ready for the input, it will transition the screen but not go flight ready. So I added the flight ready button here so that you can just push it again after the fact. And an engine's on off, so that you can use that instead of just the power on off by default as a default profile before you get out of the ship. Along with that, when you first start now, based on some historical issues that were being had, when you load a new version now, your previous profile that you had as default will become default_old, and it will load the new standard profile automatically, and then also set it as default. So for those who just use the default profile, they shouldn't have any issues with that, and will update to all of the new settings, and then you can make your changes and save it. And for those that had an old profile, it's still kept there if it's easier to go back and edit that if it still works, rather than having to redo it all from scratch. It's just kept as default old. There is a whole bunch of other small fixes and changes that are listed in the patch notes. To check the patch notes either on the website or on either the client or the server, you can push the release or the version number down the bottom right here, and then you can scroll through. On your tablet or phone, it'll say, you know, click to scroll over here on the right. That's inside the text here, and if you do that, you probably get the keyboard thing pop up for your device. Just close the keyboard thing, and then you can drag it with your finger, and it will scroll through, and you can read all the additional changes. Alright guys, that pretty much covers the main things for 8.45 in as short a video as I probably could. Have fun with it. If there's any issues, please jump in the Discord and let me know that you found some bugs, etc. I'm kind of new to explaining the patch notes. I'm kind of new to the whole database thing, so if there's issues with the services and stuff, then let me know, and I'll try and sort out a way to fix that. If you have any other problems, please drop me a line and I'll do my best to get it updated ASAP. Have fun, and hopefully the servers aren't burning. Peace.